Good morning, everybody. My name's Al Emery, Managing Director at Momentum Software Solutions. Thank you very much for joining our online event, Manufacturing for the Future. Momentum are co-hosting this event with David Ogilvy, an independent ERP and manufacturing expert and consultant, as well as Link MES, a manufacturing execution solution provider. So between the three of us, we have quite a lot of expertise in manufacturing. So we hope this event is most importantly informative for you. Manufacturing in Australia is on the rise, in particular in Queensland. And it's exciting times. Technology is helping with that, but it's not the only thing that's important. So we want to talk to you today about future-focused aspects of manufacturing, how technology can support that, and give you an idea of, I guess, what good looks like. So I'm just going to share my screen and touch on our agenda before I hand over to our first presenter. So our agenda today is, firstly, we're going to be hearing from David Ogilvy, ERP and manufacturing expert. After that, we're going to have a live demonstration of the Myob Advanced Manufacturing module, part of the Cloud ERP suite from Myob. And then we're going to invite Mark Gregory, CEO of Link MES, to share his knowledge with us, and then plenty of time for questions at the end. So I'm going to hand over now to David, and thank you all for joining us. We look forward to David's presentation. Over to you, David.
As Al mentioned, David Ogilvy is my name, and I've been in the ERP and supply chain industry, if you like, for about 25 years. So what I'd like to talk about today is the key focus on how you leverage your ERP for improving profitability and, potentially more importantly, the value of your business. I have a lot to go through in a very short period of time because, as you saw from the agenda, it's reasonably well packed. So I'll be talking at a very high level. And, you know, obviously, if you've got any questions about some more detail on that, you can ask after the speeches, or contact me after the event if you wish. So my goals today is to provide you a little understanding behind the scenes of the ERP industry, because there are some nuances that I think people who are new to it need to understand. And I'll discuss how a well-implemented ERP system benefits a manufacturer's supply chain. So like many things in life, these are a couple of the customers that I've worked with over time, which you'll give you an idea. But like many things in life, there are two sides to the ERP story. And firstly, there is bad news. Unfortunately, about 75 to 85% of implementations fail to deliver promised benefits, and in fact, some of them fail outright. A lot of well-known stories, little supermarkets, Hershey chocolates, all of those sorts of things. It doesn't take you long to find some bad stories. About 60% of those have a major business disruption. That is, they couldn't ship product, they can't invoice product, or something of that nature. The Australian Computer Society also conducted a survey and found that 70% of companies that experienced a major IT failure were not in business 5 years later. So clearly we want to get this right. And ERP can be challenging. But the good news is we know the causes of those failures and they can be avoided. So ultimately ERP can be painless. And done well, an ERP implementation will dramatically improve your business profitability and your market valuation. I had one client who implemented an ERP system, and within 4 years, their business grew by 7 times. So this is absolutely achievable. This is doable. But success starts with selecting the right product and, most importantly, the right implementation and support partner in the first place. The trouble is, executives who run businesses rarely do this. It is very common for a CEO, a CFO to only do this once or maybe twice in their whole career. Executives learn their craft through repetition, right? So having only done this once or twice in their career, there is a very high risk they get it wrong. So there's a high risk of reputational damage to them personally, high reputational damage to the business. ERP implementation is actually listed as number 2 on the corporate directors training program as their biggest risks. So no one seems to have learnt from the past. And I guess that comes back to the fact that there's been a lot of cycling of executives through the businesses, because this has been happening for 30 odd years or so. So I guess it's my opinion, and it's potentially a biased opinion, but I think it pays to get good experienced hands to help guide you through this process. Now, the first step a lot of people take is to reach out, have a quick look at Google, look at a couple of products and vendors and so forth out there, and reach out and talk to them. I think that's a mistake, because the ERP industry can be like the second-hand car salespeople. You find some good ones, you find a lot of bad ones. What you really need is you need genuine people working with you, people like Al and his team, for example. It's really important that you get the right people supporting you. I've seen too often inexperienced people fall for a lot of salespeople's tricks at the end of the day, and that's not good. So the old selection model is broken, and we need a new way. The way I go about that is we look at what's different about your business. We don't look at the minutiae and provide long lists of requirements to people like Al. We're looking for what makes your business different, what's your competitive advantage, and we look to support and enhance that. But the most important thing, I think, when you start your ERP journey is to understand your why. Why are you looking to change the system? Why are you replacing the existing system? Why is it not doing for you what you need it to do? And if you have a high reliance on Excel spreadsheets to perform tasks, track events or progress of things, then you're probably a really good candidate. ERP is traditionally considered as a tactic or a single project to achieve a single aim. The reality is, I think ERP is strategically important. You need to think about ERP in a strategic mindset, particularly when the failure rate is so high. Because ultimately, there is nothing more strategic than the actual survival of your business. It demands serious effort and senior management attention, and therefore your ERP decision should be a strategic weapon in your marketplace. So I think it's really important to undertake a sound strategic review first before you start to look at which products and which partner. Because at the end of the day, we need to understand why you're changing this and what your business is going to look like. So while speaking about strategy, COVID has turned the world upside down. It has changed the landscape completely. So any strategy that you had that's older than 12 months, I think should be revisited. Strategic views are no longer the 10-year strategic plan. Those days are gone. Things are changing at a much faster rate, and you need to adapt. You need to be more agile. Therefore, I think your strategic view should be no longer than 2 to 4 years, and you should be constantly doing your strategic reviews. And I think it's vital that you do it before you select a system. I think it's strategy before software is my mantra. So you need to do more than just solve today's problems. What you need to do is to be able to understand what your business is going to look like, smell like, taste like in 2, 3, 5 years' time, and find a product that's going to help you drive the business to that point. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be doing this every 5 years. You want to find a product that's going to stay with you and the growth of the business through those 7, 8, 9 times growth model through to 5, 10, 15 years. You want a long-term relationship with people like Ali, for example, right? So that you can really dominate your marketplace. So one of the ways of doing that, obviously, is building supply chain resiliency. And I think ERP systems can help significantly improve your supply chain resiliency. It's a key ingredient to profit improvement. Now, over the years, I've developed a supply chain model that I use when I work with clients. And I'll just want to quickly go through with it and point out a couple of points. The actual detail behind this is quite significant, so I won't cover all of that at the moment. But at the end of the day, a supply chain starts at a point of origin for every product, and there's a point of consumption. And in between those 2 points are a series of businesses who are transacting together. Right? So by their very nature, they provide a flow of activity. And generally what flows between those 2 points is material, information, and money. And it's bidirectional, right? The flow goes both ways. Now, to support that flow of activity, there are some fundamental enablers or foundational pieces that make that happen. Firstly is your corporate mindset. So obviously, in all the different organisations between the point of origin and point of consumption, there are a series of businesses, so there are a series of different mindsets that all impact the flow of that activity in their own way. So your company may be close to the customer, you might be right at the point of consumption as a retailer, for example, or as a manufacturer, you'll be in the middle here somewhere, supplying retailers or supplying end users with the product that you make. Or you might be in the extraction business, mining company, for example, right at the point of origin. But irrespective of that, the different mindsets of those companies impact the flow of that material. The second foundational piece is the relationships that are at play throughout that process, both internally as a business and externally with your suppliers and customers. The other thing that creates a foundational piece is your business processes. Are you manual or are you automated or somewhere in between? Have a mixture of each. How you operate your business and the processes that you use within your business make a significant difference. Clearly, technology has a major foundational piece on how that all interacts. And this is where ERP systems and MES systems like Mark's product and those sorts of things come together. They influence how the flow of that activity is operating. And finally, there is the executive dashboard. Every business has a set of metrics that they use to drive the business. These are usually extracted out of the data, out of an ERP system. So they have a major impact on it. One of the key reasons why they don't work as expected in many cases is the fact that I think dashboards need to be built to change behaviour or change and reinforce behaviour. Because at the end of the day, the behaviour that is performed and measured by these metrics goes back to reinforce the culture within the business. So it is really important to actually build those dashboards with the desired behaviour in mind. And I do a lot of work with my clients around building that. So these are the foundational pieces that go together to make that. The other important thing really at a high level is understanding the visibility of your material, the information and your money. So for example, it's really important that you might have the visibility. How much WIP do I have? How much slack do I have in my production schedule? Am I achieving my machinery efficiencies that I'm looking for? It's that visibility of information that's really important. Likewise is the velocity. the speed at which this information is getting to you, the speed of your decision making to changing events, whether they're strategic decisions, operational decisions, or analytical decisions. So there are some other components there, but I won't cover them for the moment. But they are the two big ones that the ERP has a major impact in helping, is the visibility of all of the information around your material, your money, and the other info, and the speed at which it's delivered to you. So obviously, you can build supply chain resiliency by improving your sales and inventory and operational planning processes. ERP systems will help support that. It will help support your inventory accuracy and other components that make a good SIOP process working properly. It helps you with your forecast demand accuracy. It helps you measure it and make decisions around it. They help with your DIFOT, your delivery in full and on time, particularly at a line level. Most importantly for me, I think it helps you understand your cost to serve your customer. That is, which customer is profitable and which ones are not. Every business has customers that they are servicing. They often spend a lot of time and effort servicing these customers when in fact they're not as profitable as they could or should be. And an ERP system will also help you manage your push-pull boundaries. So very quickly, so I don't take up too much time, other ERP success factors that you need to be across early in the piece is, making sure that you have matching corporate cultures. I think the relationship between you and the software vendor and support partner is often more important than the actual software capability. So knowing your own culture is key. Do you really understand the culture of your own business? And how do you know that you're going to be aligned? And many don't. You also need to have a proven ability to get things done. ERP projects can be done efficiently and quickly. Often they are not. And that's generally because the business does not necessarily have a proven ability to get things done or be accountable. So I'm an old rugby player. So I guess in my mindset, you can't expect to win an international rugby game if you actually have a second-grade domestic side. So you need to make sure you develop the right skills with the right guidance to be able to perform at the level that you need to make the ERP work properly. You also need to appoint an internal solution architect, somebody internally who understands how all of the different components hang together and support the business processes and the business outcome you're looking for. You can't rely on the vendor or the partner's solution architect or consultants. You need to own the outcome, and you do that by appointing somebody internally who is responsible for making sure that all of the different components hang together properly. The other suggestion I have around success is don't make any modifications, certainly not in the first 12 months. Now, this is very difficult for a lot of businesses to stick to, and there is often a very large change management component here. However, if you deploy the standard product and run it for about 12 months, you will have a very good understanding at the end of that of how the system works. It certainly will be a much deeper and richer understanding of the product than before you went live, when a lot of people are making these modification decisions. I believe firmly that you should only change the code in an application, excuse me, when it provides you with a strategic advantage. So I'll give a shameless plug for my book, which can be got on Amazon. There's a lot of things in there that we could cover. However, the three key pieces of information that come out of that, these are the three things, if you were to ask me about three things, that you need to take away and have in place for your ERP implementation to be right, to maximize your chances of success. And that is making sure you understand your culture, and the software vendor's culture. You understand well the project team's capability and the software vendor's capability. So you can go from anywhere from a disaster and a high risk of getting it wrong through to the sweet spot, depending on where on that Venn diagram you have each of those requirements and components. If you'd like a copy of this, reach out to me later, and I'm more than happy to email you a copy. And so to finish off, I'd like to say that ERP is never, or at least rarely, about the technology. ERP fails due to human behaviour. Now, ERP failure is generally about a death by 1,000 cuts. That is, there's no one big thing or one big mistake that causes the failure. It is a series of small, well-intentioned decisions made along the way that lead ultimately to ruin. So it is really important, I think, that you have that experience guidance along the path to make sure that you're not nudging yourself off direction. It's like a sailing boat, right? It doesn't go off course in a hurry. It goes off gradually. So the next set of challenges for manufacturers, I think, is, are you fully leveraging the current technologies that are available? And many companies are not, such as radio frequency, real-time data capture, barcodes, and those sorts of technologies throughout the process. Sometimes what I call the business 101 aspects are not in place to be able to leverage things like artificial intelligence and machine learning. Right? If you don't have the foundational pieces in place, you're not going to be able to leverage them properly. And sure, I have customers at the moment who are going down the path of AI, particularly in the space of helping them with their forecast demand and generating forecasts and those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the basics in place, you're not going to be able to leverage them properly. There are things, of course, like augmented reality, machinery servicing companies using those HoloLens glasses and so forth on apprentices out in the field, and that gives them some visibility to the experienced heads back at the desk and so forth. How and whether you leverage adaptive manufacturing. Again, none of these things are going to really provide you with massive payoffs unless you've got the basics right first. So we'll leave the questions to the end. That's my contact details. If you want to discuss anything offline that I've covered here today, go and have a look at my website and my blog. I regularly publish articles there. I've got a monthly newsletter that you could subscribe to if you want to read my views on supply chain and ERP type topics. And on that note, I'll hand back to Al.
Thank you, David.
That was really quick, but I know I'm short of time. So.
No, perfect. Exactly what we wanted to cover. So I appreciate that. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions and great feedback. So moving on to, I guess, Momentum's part of the presentation. We do a lot of work with manufacturers. It's a real speciality of ours. And talking about, I guess, longevity and alignment, we've got customers on this call who've been customers of ours for 10 years plus, which is a great thing to achieve. And importance in manufacturing, there's a lot of factors for manufacturers, but you're concurrently collaborating with customers and suppliers on what the customers want and when do they need it, as well as your suppliers with what do you need from them and when do you need it. So there's planning and balancing supply and demand, whether that's from a production scheduling perspective or from an MRP and making sure you have the raw materials or ingredients and people to actually do the production process. All or most manufacturers use raw materials, so part of the inventory is going to be, raw materials or ingredients, work in progress materials, so partially assembled products or partially made products or batches, and finished goods. So you need a system that can manage all of those aspects. Manufacturing usually starts with a design and a bill of material, as well as the routings or the actual steps involved in making the things that you make, and the ability to manage changes to those designs or bill of materials. And at the execution phase, scheduling, capture of information, and really transparency and visibility of what's going on in my business or in my factory. Myob Advanced is a good solution for manufacturers, and we have many customers using it in a manufacturing environment. So it's cloud-based, does not require any software to be installed, runs in a browser or a mobile app, and being a SaaS product is a monthly license fee, so not a CapEx expenditure. Covers the full suite of ERP functionality from CRM to business intelligence and dashboards, inventory distribution, payroll, project accounting and project management, field service, financials, especially well for multi-entity, and the manufacturing, which is our focus today. Supported manufacturing markets covers the gamut of most of them. So industrial, electronic products, instruments, cosmetics, food and beverage, metal, aerospace, medical devices and automotive, and various sub-verticals within that. And we can handle make to stock, make to order, engineer to order, project centric, job shop, repetitive and batch. Momentum has customers that make all kinds of things, from rainwater tanks, industrial louvers, commercial vessels, toolboxes, Dagwood dogs, and fitness supplements. So we have a broad coverage of customers and verticals that we've implemented for. So I'm going to hand now to Brian James, who's a business development manager and also has been a software and implementation consultant for Momentum for many years. And Brian's going to take you through a few key aspects of Myob Advanced manufacturing module. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Al. Much appreciated. Hello, everybody. Just going to share my screen, get my system up and going. And there we go. So you're now looking at the Myob Advanced. This is our demonstration system. We're live as such on air. I'm starting off with a dashboard, as David mentioned, for production manager. So a production manager would typically have this kind of dashboard in his coming in every day, showing exactly where he's at on the production floor. These dashboards can be, say, graphical, pie charts, piles, drill downs, various lists, etc., and all customized by role and by user as well. It's a very powerful feature inside Myob Advanced. All right, so production. Normally, we make things. So we have a stock item that we're going to make. So I'm just going to show you a typical basic production process to make a specific stock item. So I'll go to my stock system. I'm going to look for an item called a swing gate. There it is. It's a swing mesh gate. I'm going to open it up. So now I'm in my stock, on my inventory side of things, and on got my description. My stock code SKU, it's a finished good. It could have been a component part or a sub-assembly as part of it. Valuation method, average, FIFO, LIFO, standard. Going into, we also got lot and serial number tracking as well. So we also have tracks by serial numbers or lot numbers, expiry dates, the warehousing, where we keep it all. The other tabs on a imagery item follows a whole bunch of information, which we looked at later on. All we're doing now is looking at mainly the manufacturing side. So this particular string gate manufacturing tab is linked to a bill of material, number 11. And at the same time, it's also marked here for default mark for production. In other words, I make it as opposed to buying it. So either I purchase or I produce it. It's a major order item. It's also an MRP item, therefore can be used in my forecasts as well. The source comes again from manufacturing, or again, could be a transfer from another warehouse, or could be a purchase order or a purchase, just leaving as manufacturing. We can define safety stocks, min-maxes, reorder sizes, manufacturing lead time, to all fall into the place of the MRP forecasting side of things. Let's go back to the bill of material. So this bill of material number 11 is going to drill down into it. Give an idea of, to make this swing gate requires basically, we have different operations. So I've got operation 10, 15, and 20. So 3 operations, and they go through various work centers. So I've got the fabrication work center, I've got an outside contractor doing some painting, and then I do inspection. Each of these work centers then can have specific times, so setup times, days, hours, minutes. So setup time, how many units is going to happen, how long it's going to take to run that particular operation, how many machine units it's going to produce, machine time, the queuing time, scrap, etc. Backflush, another powerful feature of the system. Moment I got backflush for labor. We'll come back to that later on, the meaning of that. Going down a bit further, I'm looking on my operation 10, which is work center 1. Within that operation, I have these materials. So I need to have the following items or componentry to go and fabricate this swing gate. So I need 3 of those and 2 of those and 0.4 of those and 4 of those and so on and so forth. Each with its cost and the planned cost and where it comes from. Again, the backflush field is there, again, not yet ticked. Also have what they call steps. So to actually go and fabricate this, I need to go and maybe fabricate according to a drawing, or you can set up your own different steps, and these then print out on a work order on the production floor. I can assign specific tools, so I need a MIG welder and a seam tractor as well, and that needs 120 minutes of that at 85 cents a minute maybe, and the tracker 240 minutes, $2.15 a minute. I can assign overhead to it as well, so I've got an admin overhead, I've got a production overhead recovery as well, and so on and so forth. So each of these different processes would have their own material, its own steps, its own overhead, etc. Going back to the work center, so this work center 1, just drill into it. More information. So this is more and more like a capacity planning. So work center 1, it costs me $1 each time a minute I use it. And the capacity there can either be based on the manning, the crew size, or machines. You know, how many machines there are, or machine throughput, or how many hours in a day for each person. Scrap, if I have scrap, does it get written off or quarantined? There. And again, I can set backflush materials or backflush labor or both. And within the work center, I can have shift information. So in other words, what the shifts people work, different calendars. For example, this calendar here is set for the Monday to Friday, 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So office hours basically, as opposed to factory hours. I can have that shift there, or a night shift as well. You can have different shifts assigned then per work center and assign staff to different shifts. Again, overheads, machines, and so on and so forth. Going back to here again, so leave that alone. So that's the bill of materials to go and manufacture or produce a swing gate. Okay. This backflushing. So backflush means if it's being ticked, the system will actually go and use these times, the queue time, machine time, the run times. If it's not ticked, it means we've got to go and actually record timesheets or labor against this production order. The same with material. If it's been ticked as backflush, every time we go and move this production order between work centers, the system will go and allocate or issue these materials automatically at these levels. If it's not backflushed, we've actually got to go and issue the materials to the job each time. All right, so that's the bill of materials. Let's now go look at the actual production order. So I'm just going to close that down out of there, go into more items, so into production orders. It's my production order system. I'm going to make a new production order. All right, so order type normal. The item I'm going to make is the string. Look up the string item again. And here it comes in. It's got today's date, sitting as planned. It's coming from the main warehouse. I'm going to make one, I'm going to make more as such. The scheduling, I can either have start on or finish on or particular dates. So start on or finish on the 21st. Let's say I'm starting on today, 21st. I can say use lead times, MRP, etc. Determine the scrap warehouse and so on. Let's just save that one. Now we've got a production order number 81, sitting in system, still sitting at planned. Right. On the references side, it will show me where this production order came from. At the moment, I made this one off the cuff. It could have come from a sales order as well. If it came from a sales order, we linked to the sales order number and the client. It's showing me the financial settings of work in progress. The source of this particular production order came from bill of materials. Again, it could have come from estimates configuration as well. There's a module called configuration module, an estimate module in the system. Can also generate bills of materials and production orders. So it's using, again, bill material number 11 to make production order number 81. Could also be linked to a project. At this stage, there's no project switched on. Another nice little tab is event history. So every time something happens to the production order, the system will go and record the event against it, like an audit trail. So it's turning 11:40, it's created the regular order. It's coming out of being created. Okay. The totals tab, again, very powerful little tab on the system, showing me the planned totals, i.e. the cost of labor, the cost of material, the cost of tooling. So to make this entire string gate should cost me $9.94. The actual times and labor taken will appear in here, and the variances will appear over here. So at the moment the variances are full variances because we've got no actuals. All right. So now we've got your production order. In there we can go and have a look at thing. Let's look at critical materials. So we go look at critical material. It's showing me that on this production order, I need to have the following items. Remember those are the materials that came from that bill of material, the items there. They show me what's on hand. So I've got nothing on hand, therefore I'm short those items. So from there, I can actually go and either purchase or manufacture, depending on the replenishment source. It could either be purchased or could be manufactured as a component. Let's go and pick up, let's assume it's going to take them all, and we're going to raise a purchase order. So purchase order, I'm just going to take a default supplier. Normally you'd have different suppliers for different items. I'm just going to create it. Now it's basically a PO for me to go and buy the stock to bring it into the system. There we go. That's got 3 POs processed. So click on there, it shows me that they are coming in, busy doing it still. So purchase orders against aluminum steel, and there's all the items, what to order, etc. Right. I'm just going to go and receipt this order in, so take it off hold. I'm going to do the receipt to book the stock in, so we can actually use it on production order. That's all coming in. There we go. So ordered, received, fine. I'm just going to, at the same time, make the bill. I'm just going to include aluminum steel production and October 21 the invoice number, and just let's release that. And so now I've got stock in the system. I can actually go and start doing my production side. That could be done on a mass basis as well, using the MRP system, which shows you the actual basic steps to do around it. All right, so now I'll go back to my production orders again, production order maintenance, and go and search for my production order. It's number 81, the last one on the list. It's all sitting as planned. I can go and release the order. Now been released. If I look at my event history, I've now got created, it's now been released. All right. If you go back again to production detail, so this is back to the bill of materials, showing us again on this bill, just to remind you that on these work centers, different work centers, right, labor's got backflushing. So that backflush is going to be done, that's automatic. Whereas the labor on these other work centers need to be entered manually. So if I look at the actual production order side, I can actually do a labor transaction. Let's put a labor. I'm going to say a new labor transaction, and that's going to go against direct labor, production order number. I know it's 81, or I could search for it either way. Operation, so which operation am I putting against? Number 30, inspection, and I can do a start time, an end time, or just type in how many hours I spent doing it. Again, these labor times can come from various sources. We've got shop floor data collection, so the guys can actually have it on a device on the shop floor, or could be through a timesheet entry through mobile application device. So there's various ways of capturing labour against the production orders. That's been released. So we go back to production order again, production order maintenance. All right, number 81. So now in my event history, we've now got labour transaction. All right, so I did a cost transaction based upon moving it, and a labour transaction. The batch is there. If I drill down to it now, you'll find there's been labour added to the system. Oh, half an hour. Again, look at my totals. I now have 2.5 hours labour, $100 worth of labour. So now my labour variance is now $90 other way around. Right. The same with the materials. Well, again, materials, click on materials. 81. I can then do the summaries, all there, done. So all in stock. Next thing then is do a move transaction. So you're moving it between the different warehouses. So sorry, different cost work centers. So today's date plus their order type, again order number 81, but actually order number 81. Swing date. I can move from 10 to 20 and 20 to 30. If I assume the last move, i.e. number 30, the system will do all the in-between ones at the same time. So for the sake of speed, and this is a quick overview demo, I'm just going to assume the last work center, one of those, and say thank you very much, release that. That will now go and move the production order from 10 into 20 to 30 and add all the costs. So again, if I now go back to my production order details, and that the production order maintenance, call it up again, and now on my event history, and I got move transactions. There you go. And the totals now contain the tooling cost, the fixed overhead cost, and so on and so forth. At the same time, you can go through and look at all the transactions you've done on it. You can create purchase orders directly. At this stage, I'm going to go through and say, right, let's now go and done that, production orders, and look at the materials again, production order materials. So because the website is backflush, I'm now going to go and issue those materials basically manually, or I could use a wizard. Operation ID, so on the first operation 10, and all the stock items go and choose them. If I was doing a manual issue using a wizard, I can say take production order, the last one in the line, pick it up, then go and issue material against the production order in bulk. And that's basically, in a nutshell, manufacturing using a basic from bill of materials to production orders. We have another module called MRP, or Materials Requirements Planning, which allows you to take production orders into a forecast situation, either based upon a master production schedule, where you actually go to define your own items to be made each and every time, so you add to the schedule on a manual basis. You also have the fact of doing MRP forecasts, and the forecasts can then work upon stuff like your min maxes, your sales order demand for the factory, determine what to be made when, based upon the dates and the lead times around your materials, your work centers, your capacities, all work around the MRP side of things. And on the MRP, then you can come into your requirements listing, MRP display, and so on. So with MIB Advanced, you can basically have, starting off with a simplistic manufacturing process with bill of materials to production orders, and just adding your timesheets and labor and materials. and then move into the MRP side of planning, where you bring in the whole bring of machines and crew sizes and min-maxes and sales orders, forecast and demand. The system itself can then actually generate those forecasts for you based upon various things. But that's basically it for today, or simplistic looking at manufacturing. And you're back to Alistair to carry on.
Thank you, Brian. I think we're pretty much on track for time, maybe a few minutes behind. So we hope that you're finding this very informative as you go. And next we have Mark Gregory. Mark is CEO of Link MES. I think it's 2 a.m. in the morning where he is. So he's being a trooper for attending this session with us. So over to you, Mark.
Thanks very much, Al. Let me just share my screen as well. Here we go. Yes. So look, it's a real pleasure, despite being 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning here, UK time. But it's a real pleasure to be talking to you all today and talking to introduce you to Link MES as it can play as in combination with MYOB Advanced. So really, in the next 20 minutes after that great presentation from Brian, is a good introduction to what we offer as an extension, if you like, and an enrichment of MYOB Advanced in the manufacturing space. And by combining MYOB Advanced and MES, we're really looking to sort of accelerate your digital journey and drive the performance and the output of your manufacturing business. By way of sort of quick introduction from my side, yes, I am based in the UK. It is 3 o'clock in the morning, but I'm also joined by our regional manager for Asia Pacific, who are based in Australia there, Mark Senior as well, who's also on this call as well, just to show that we have representation across the globe as a business and that we're here to support you. Now, my background generally is that I have, a bit like David, worked in manufacturing for 25 years. 50 of those have been in senior positions within public listed manufacturing companies in industrial equipment and medical devices. In the UK and the USA, actually. But in the last 10 years, I've been more of a consultant and advisory capacity, I guess, to small to mid-sized manufacturers. And by small to mid-sized manufacturers, I mean manufacturers probably between 50 employees and 1,000 employees or thereabouts. And that's been in the capacity of CEO as Link. So generally, those are the manufacturers that we serve. But often we go actually and work with very large manufacturers beyond that, you know, up to 3,000 or 4,000 employees in the manufacturer. So believe it or not, I'm here in that consulting advisory capacity and honestly really not here to sell. My aim of the next 20 minutes is to kind of demystify for you some words around digitalization rather than confusing matters and hopefully provide a bit of focus and some practical steps about how to, you know, reach that digitalization point in your business faster rather than be generalistic. So just digesting the opening sentence there, you know, next decade, forward-thinking businesses will transform themselves through connectivity, data, automation, and increasingly sophisticated workforce. So in that context, which is trying to simplify things, you know, I'd like to talk about the need to adapt and digitalize. And today it's more about survival as well, and then the ability to thrive. But it's not a nice to have anymore; it's a must have. And then we'll talk about the context of manufacturing operations management and how that would lead to operational excellence, which is a culture within manufacturing companies. And lastly, how that translates into real financial, tangible benefits by you focusing and managing your resource effectiveness within your manufacturing facility. So we'll start with digital transformation. I probably don't need to sort of say this, but companies that digitalize their environments, whether it be through ERP and MES solutions, and these are statistics actually produced by Cambridge University in the UK, studying manufacturers across the globe, was that 55% of them found a reduction in labour costs, 45% a reduction in defects and errors, 45 reduction in material costs, 30% increase in outputs, and 30% improved delivery and service performance. And that was pre-COVID. You know, since then we've had this COVID pandemic, and really I could sum up the whole slide here really in the fact that what the major benefit is you as an organization becoming agile, allowing you to flex when things aren't going perhaps as straightforward as you would expect them to do because of a pandemic or because demand is choppy or moving up and down. And that's honestly, the real goal and drive towards digitalizing your environment. I would refer to it as a dial effect that you need with your business. So, you know, you need the ability to be able to ramp up and ramp down quickly to adjust to the changing world that's out there and the changing environment. So that's why we do this. Now, in the context of manufacturing operations management and how that leads to operational excellence, you know, this quote around "if you can't measure it, you can't improve it" from Peter Drucker has long been used to illustrate what you need to do as a management team, let's say, to run and drive and improve your business. You can also say, you know, you can't manage what you can't measure. Other quotes, they're all along the same lines. But when you're looking at operational excellence, let's say, and some key manufacturing KPIs, that doesn't matter which industry that you're in, these should and do resonate, and what you should focus on. So, you know, if you're a job shop environment, overall labour effectiveness is extremely important, so that you manage the cost of your labour and you're getting the most out of those employees and resources that you have. If you're a batch production environment, then it's actually a combination of looking at overall labour effectiveness and overall equipment effectiveness that you would use, and it needs to be a balance of both. If you're running a production line, then it's very much focused on overall equipment effectiveness because you've invested in that equipment to run the line as efficiently as possible. Now, these percentages underneath aren't sort of a de facto standard across all industries. They do differ by your business, your industry, and where you are. But generally, what you need to do is set a target, understand what the benchmark is in your industry, and it could be that labour effectiveness within your business needs to be at 60%. And the question is, where are you today, and how can you improve that percentage to drive the effectiveness and what it's worth to me in financials, which we'll cover off. Same thing for overall equipment effectiveness. And the last one there is another metric which is key for manufacturing, and it really puts it in the context of the calendar overall. So 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. How efficiently am I using that capacity, and how well is my equipment performing over that overall capacity that I have? To articulate this in a more simple form, if you take 24 hours in manufacturing, whether you're a human being, a machine, or you're comparing it to the calendar days, times that we have, 24 hours can often see that you may not run a shift for the full 24 hours. It may be you run 2 10-hour shifts or whatever they may be, or 3 shifts within that time. And you're starting off where from that total effective equipment performance, you've already lost, let's say, 4 hours. But that's you've taken the decision to do that, and that's where you need to run. After that, you need to think now how that 24 hours gets chipped away into effective hours. So from a loading perspective, and this is a planning and scheduling where that becomes really important, you've got planned downtime coming in. So from idle time of machines not running, it could be setups and changeovers from one product to the next, teardowns, cleaning, maintenance. It's all lost. We're not being productive during that time. After the plan is published to the shop floor, you have unplanned downtime. Equipment will break down, tooling failures, operator shortages, all the normal stuff that happens. You may have performance loss then, whether it be employees or equipment. It could be that your operators are not trained to do a particular process that you wanted, so therefore it's taking longer than normal. It could be that the machinery is getting old. It could be that there's some wear and tear on that causes a performance loss. So in other words, I'm not producing 100 products in an hour as I was supposed to do from my bill of material and routing that's sitting there in Myob Advanced, and we can compare that. And last but not least, I need to be producing good quality product every time. And so I might have a quality loss because I've actually spent time producing something that is not of good quality. And, you know, when you look at it like that, start with 24 hours, I end up with 10 hours of those really being effective. So that's effective time when I'm producing good product. And the rest of it is lost through that. And that we're just looking here in the context of, if you like, one individual, one piece of equipment, one resource. And if you then think about that in multiplying that out by 365 days a year, by how many resources that you have, by the cost per hour, which in the US is an average about $35 per hour, so labor or machine. In Australia, it's about 45 Australian dollars thereabouts. It's a significant amount of money. Not least at 1,000 hours, and you can quickly amount that in every month will cost the business 35,000 US dollars, or about 45,000 Australian dollars. So those key KPIs, which are on the right-hand side there, one for labor, one for equipment, and one overlooking from the calendar overall, get supported by 4 metrics. Those metrics look at loading that we've talked about, planned downtime, things from idling and setup and tear down. They come from availability, which is equipment breakdowns, etc. It comes from performance or reduced speed, operator inefficiencies or component jams or whatever we might have. And it comes from quality aspect. So it could be production and startup rejects that we would have. And actually, you know, overall labor effectiveness and equipment effectiveness is calculated by multiplying availability by performance by quality. And total effective equipment performance is adding loading to that. So you multiply loading by availability by quality by performance. And that gives you those metrics. So if we look at this in the context of, let's say, what we provide and trying to provide you that focus and look at the financial benefits. We offer an MES solution. So what is an MES solution? This is a fully integrated planning and production system. So while MYOB Advanced offers some level of scheduling, within the MES solution, you will get a full graphical planning board with finite capacity where you can automatically schedule your orders to get the most out of your factory in the most efficient way. So it's a key element of that. The diagram on the right-hand side shows resource management and definition management. And just to simply put that in context, resources is looking like employees and equipment that you might set up within MYOB Advanced. Definition management, things like bill of materials and routing that you might. But we use that, leverage that information to build, you know, a really detailed production scheduling plan that's optimized with graphical tools to do that. We can dispatch that plan. We can control and execute that plan through the shop floor. We can collect data from that. Again, so where you want data collection, if you like, on steroids or so from there are optimum ways of collecting data efficiently, accurately, from human beings, from machines automatically, so that you can bring this into the application and you can analyze that. And actually as a hybrid of both, so on behalf of the machine, without actually automating and collecting the data automatically. And all of this leads to tracking and information, so you can see where your jobs are, you can see what your employees are doing, you can see where the equipment is. But you know, most importantly is to understand, you know, those performance, those KPIs there from a factory point of view, to know, am I running this business and this factory better today than I was last quarter or last month, etc. So the MES solution incorporates all of that, fully integrated, where all of the white lines in between all of those are talking to one another. So if something changes on the shop floor, the schedule gets updated and vice versa. As a business, so we offer this. We currently have 15,000 resources being managed by our software. It's not the same as users. We have many more users than that, across about 250 customers, in fact, nearly 300 now, in about 16 or 17 industries in 14 countries. And our solution is built around that diagram that you see on the right-hand side, which incidentally is an international standard for manufacturing operations management. It's been around, as many of these things are, for many years, and it still holds true. And it's supported by 4 pillars underneath that to look at production, inventory, maintenance, and quality, which we offer from an MES system to advance that. Now, we offer plug and play, we call connectivity to MYOB. So literally you turn the system on and it's automatically syncing in real time MYOB data with MES data. So there's really nothing to think about. We're not just within the MYOB space, we operate in other ERP solutions as well, as you can see on the screen. In essence, what we offer then is a solution that can plan, track, automate, analyze, and optimize. So we talked about visual schedules, online plans, interactive job lists on the shop floor. We offer clocking systems as well, which is fully integrated to give you, so you understand employees starting and arriving during the day. Real-time data collection gives you the tracking. We can link with machines, with PLCs, with other I/O devices to bring the data from the machines automatically into the software to give you the performance analysis, but most important, to give you the loss visualization, which I'll come on to, which is the financial benefits around resource effectiveness. And we wrap it in a solution that has document control, downtime alerts to your mobile phone, for example. When a machine goes down, you can receive a message, and actually interactive collaborative messaging from the top floor to the shop floor. So somebody on the shop floor can communicate with their management team. So in terms of connectivity, we connect to MYOB Advanced 2020.6 and above. All those releases, you do need to be on that release in order to be able to leverage Link and add Link on. We can connect to machines, and we support over 140 industrial drivers, from Siemens to Allen Bradley to Mitsubishi, to almost any machine you can think of that we can integrate with. We talk about scalability, so you can integrate our application with many other applications, such as, let's say, label printing. So if you wanted to print labels straight from the MES, then that's easy to do with webhooks. And then if you don't have enough information from the canned reports, which would be surprising actually within the solution, then you can always build your own apps and reports using Microsoft Power Platform, and we support that. We cover 15 industries, of which are shown on the screen, a mix of process and discrete, but we're really focusing on your environment, whether it's job batch or line environments, and seamlessly sort of linking the similar industries that MYOB, Advanced cover, and Momentum, and Al's team cover in Australia. So some key sort of takeaways of what we're offering by way of quick introduction, and I will show you the software just very briefly here. It's one solution. You will see in a second that it offers very fast payback, and it does that by increasing that effectiveness of your resources. We deploy it in 12 weeks, or quick to deploy. It can be offered on-prem or in the cloud. It's really any way you want to take this. And we offer a SaaS solution as well to support that. Highly configurable for your particular industry, insightful in terms of inbuilt analytics and this connection to machines. So at this point, I'll just show you the software just very briefly. But before I do, I just want to mention, and we'll circulate this slide deck after this webinar closes, but there's a full demo of the solution, which you can watch in your own time if it sparks any interest. And if you want to have a consultation, then please contact the Momentum team. So let me just switch it over and show you just, let's say, one of the reports within the solution here. So you're looking at the application platform here now. If I look at the home screen here, we've also got details, scheduling, dispatching, so you can see it's built around that manufacturing operations management standard. If I look at loss management, which is one of the reports, and this will put real life context around what I've just been talking about. Here we've got, we're looking at a period here, which is January for a given month, and we're looking at 8 pieces of equipment that you can see in this list here. What it's showing you is that those 8 pieces of equipment have around 6,000 calendar hours. But during the month, there were various losses that we've just talked about that actually reduced the effective hours from those pieces of equipment to just over 1,000. And underneath that, you see a breakdown of the reasons why you lost, or there was that waste created in the process that resulted in these number of effective hours. Now, what's important is that while you can see percentage losses here that we've had in a total of 81% loss through the calendar hours that we were looking at, I can also then see how many hours that affected within a given month. So remember the 1,000 hours, $35,000. So this is 4,800 hours lost on just 8 pieces of equipment in a given month. And then you can look to see how much that's actually costing you in terms of your cost rate per hour, whatever that may be, because you can actually program the system in order to put your rates in. But this is a rate of, let's say, 45 Australian dollars per hour. And you can see how much you're losing from, let's say, a planning and scheduling or loading loss. So that's the planned downtime, unplanned downtime, performance loss from operator inefficiency or rough running, or quality loss, for example, that you have. And you can see the reasons underneath. You can drill into these areas to see, for example, more detail on the availability. Day by day, what happened in your particular environment and what the major losses of availability, which is unplanned downtime, were. So 18.5 hours of tooling failure in a given month, for example, on those machines. So you can drill into that and really drive your continuous improvement efforts. And generally, what we see is customers see an increase in their effectiveness by between 5 and 30%, depending on their environments, in both their labour and their equipment effectiveness. And that really does translate into huge savings. That's a cost rate figure per month, so 216,000, Australian dollars per month. And if you translate that into what that means in terms of your lost revenue, this is the sort of key focal point for manufacturers to get that information in order to be able to drive the continuous improvement. That's just a sort of a glimpse, as I said, of our software and what we do. I said we do cover the whole gamut from plan, track, automate, analyze, and optimize. By all means, click the recording of the video to see a full demo. In that, just thank you for your time, and I hope that glimpse of what we can offer is somewhat of interest to you. Back to you, Al.
Thank you very much, Mark, and I'll just quickly reshare my screen. We're pretty much on schedule, and so just a quick wrap up about Momentum, who are hosting this event together with Link and David. We're ERP specialists. We've been doing it for many years. We have a team of over 30 people, more than 230 businesses running the applications that we support. And importantly, our methodology, I guess reflecting back on David's earlier comments about risk of ERP implementation failures, our whole approach from the start is that the system goes live when everybody's ready. And readiness is reflected by the readiness of the system, but that's only a part of it, the readiness of the customer. And that could be the readiness of their data, the readiness of their people in terms of their the training that they've had and practice, especially, and testing of the software they might be about to implement. And that's the ultimate test. We would never recommend an ERP project go live without both parties being able to look each other in the eye and say, we're ready. So we do that in partnership along the journey of the ERP implementation. And that done well provides a successful outcome for the customer, which is the most important thing. And we work in partnership with Link along exactly the same approach. And so just wrapping up and inviting questions, we had David at the start talking about, really the importance of a thorough evaluation of whatever system you are considering implementing, and preferably with an independent partner doing that with you. He talked about key factors in supply chain efficiency, and also some aspects of how to take advantage of future technology like AI. We had momentum with Brian taking us through a good example of a manufacturing process in MYOB Advanced. And I would add to that it supports much more complex manufacturing processes than that, with multiple sub-assemblies and phantoms, product configurations, customized products, and many, many more aspects. So that was a quick preview. And then we had Mark from Link talking about, really the importance of measuring performance, especially in manufacturing, the ability to understand why targets either were or were not met, and how much more visibility you have with a solution like Link to support that. So yeah, we invite any questions that you may have. All of our websites are available on the slide that you're seeing now. And we really appreciate you joining us today. We have recorded the session, so we will be making available the recording to people who attended and registered. So thank you very much.